There we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chat on Education Live. We've already had like a half an hour's worth of conversation, and you know, we've primed ourselves. Welcome to the chat. We got Andy Lizer, Diana McGee, Myers McGee. I'll say all of your names.
Fine.
Melissa Pilikowski, Audrey Turnbow, and Dave Blanchard. This is like, where's Glen?
Who's that?
He's out of town.
Vacation.
Vacation.
Good for him.
I guess.
You're just
Who's
jealous.
he think it is?
I do
Summer?
miss him.
I'm jealous. I'm completely jealous.
Yeah, you
So,
to what? July? Is that when you were gonna
yeah.
finally take a break?
Yeah, no, I can't. I don't.
Sound like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, it sounds great. Come to participate, they said. Really cool stuff, they said. Yeah.
And then
So
COVID.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So we're live basically everywhere. I think that you can be live. We're live on the Participate Twitch channel. We're live on the Participate YouTube channel. We're live on the OnEducation YouTube channel. We're live on the Facebook channels for both Participate and OnEducation. So we're basically live everywhere you can be live that we're allowed to, that they let us do that on. Thanks for watching wherever you're watching from. Hello. Dan Kreinus from the Leader of Learning podcast. He's great. Mark Otter watching as well, which is super exciting. Oh, I just said things about my company and my boss is watching. That's always a good sign. So this has been a really shitty week. Can we? Okay. Whoa.
There's an
Go,
inverse to that too. That's
Melissa,
just as powerful.
go. I need it, please.
So,
please give it to me.
if you listened to my live stream last week when Glen and Diana were on, and I mean, man, I made it a big joke, just how awful this was. And then I really started rethinking it. I'm like, you know what? We are, and by we, I mean like 2/3 to 60% of America right now, I think, are making history. And we are making, God, I hope, some of the most needed changes. And they're not going to happen fast enough for some people. And I totally appreciate that. But I kind of realized about Monday, I was like, you know what? Dear God, you're complaining, and people of color have had to live with some of this. I don't know if we can say the word. Shit.
Say it.
Or had to live with this shit for their entire lives. And who am I to complain that I'm feeling heavy and God, what a tough year this is. Well, God damn, it's time that we had this year.
Yeah, you wonder how much people could take. Like it's been a couple hundred years, but it's also been like at least 5 or 6 or 10 years of debt, like pretty consistent tragedy after tragedy. And it's like, is this one going to be the one that makes people wake up and realize what the hell's going on? Is this one going to be the one? And it's never been the one.
It feels different.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Different in a good way and different in a very uncomfortable way, which I assume too is in a good way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As I sit in my seat of privilege here, and I acknowledge that, but that uncomfortableness I see as immense progress, but the very beginning of it.
Mm-hmm. There's a big uphill we still have to climb. That is for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was it was kind of we're thankful, I guess, on the podcast for a couple reasons. First, we've been pretty consistently like talking about this for a long time, like since we started, basically we've never really stopped talking about stuff like this. I mentioned to someone the other day, we did a I mean, it's buried because of other episodes, and like it's like 150 episodes ago. But like way back, like if you go back, we did an episode on like school funding and redistricting, like in episode like 20, and we brought on like a think tank, like a um someone that I had made contact with from an educational think tank that was writing reports on how districting disproportionately affects people of color, and that affects their schooling. And listen, if you don't think that this has to do with education, I mean, we're gonna get to it in a little bit, but like I wrote it in the statement that I wrote last night, and this has everything to do with education. And so we've been talking about it here, and I was so happy that we were able to get Michael Bonner on the podcast. We had him scheduled. One of the things that I had been reflecting on over the last month or so prior to this, like so in the last little while, was just making a more concerted effort to have more people of color on the podcast, because I consider us an ally, like already, like not as of now, but prior to now. I'd like to think that we were still doing, having those hard conversations, talking about those things, and not being afraid to do that. And so, but we weren't really like, so we were a good place for people of color in particular to come on and talk about how, education is being impacted by this systemic racism and stuff like that. And so I was happy to have Michael on, and we have Adam File on next week, and then coming up real soon we have Jed Dearyberry, who is a very, very outspoken gay man, and then we have a number of we've invited a bunch of people on, and we're reaching out constantly. And again, in the statement I wrote, all this really took was a little more work by me to like actively seek out those people, instead of using like, I'm tired, I'm busy, I literally do this for an hour once every couple weeks and kind of scour the internet. But like I needed to invest more, like be more intentional, I guess is the word that I would use about who I was asking, and not be like, oh, I can just have so and so on again because they're really good, and they are. And obviously we love all of our guests. We wouldn't have you on the podcast if we didn't think you were friggin' great. But we needed to be more intentional about who was joining us, and making sure that voices were,
it's really choppy. Okay.
we were including as many voices as we possibly could. So that's what we're doing. Man, I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss for words. I'm tired. I said in our chat today, I'm tired and angry. And so
And out of Mountain Dew? Out of Mountain Dew?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crisis. I have water. I bought these new water bottles, by the way. Not an ad.
Not an ad.
This is a 40-ounce water bottle. It's huge. Look at it. It's like bigger than my head, which is so
Thank you.
God, you could put 3 cans of Mountain Dew in that.
I've drank 2 of these today.
Good for you.
That's really good.
So, anyways, anyone else have thoughts before we get into, like, I want to get into the statement a little bit, and kind of share some of the big takeaways from that. I think that's probably the most appropriate use of tonight. But does anyone have any kind of overwhelming thoughts about what's been going on the last week?
I think that before we jump into the other pieces that we're talking about tonight, you said you're tired and you don't know what to say. And I think a lot of people don't know what to say. And there's been that buzz around social media of, as a white educator, as a white leader, as a white person, what should I be saying? What should I be contributing? And I think that as more and more people are gaining any amount of followers or traction or valid conversations or district leadership or even classroom leadership and connections to your community. What we really need to focus on is using those platforms of whatever size to share the messages that are really important that we may not be saying because we don't know those words. We didn't live it. And I scroll through TikTok. I do. And I've seen more.
Who doesn't? You either do or you're lying about it.
Right,
TikTok is freaking great.
And I've seen more duets of people saying, and I turn my platform over to you. And they literally put their phone down, so they are not even on the screen. And it is this other person who has no followers at all. And you see them a couple of times, and it's just them using their platform to amplify. And does it have the same number of likes as everything else? No, because the algorithms are designed to not amplify that. But it's that effort. It's that saying, I am going to turn over my abilities to help share your messages because it's not my message. I can't.
Yeah.
I see you. I hear you. Let me amplify you. I think that's really incredible.
Definitely.
And people need to vote.
Yeah.
People need to vote.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And they need to vote for what they actually believe in, not just for a side that they have always voted for. And that is something that I've been trying to communicate with people, that like just because you've always voted one way doesn't mean that that's the way you have to stay with this upcoming November. You need to really dig deep into your morals and what you believe in, and you need to stick to those morals, and you need to vote accordingly.
And look beyond that single issue, that one major thing that seems to be the one thing that kept you in one place. Looking beyond that and acknowledging that and realizing, hey, there may be some bigger things that we need to focus on.
Sure.
And that one sticking point, there's a name for that. What is that? Single issue voting, something like that.
Yep.
So to me, in the past, a lot of it has come down to, pro-life, pro-choice.
That's what it is.
That's
Yeah.
That's what our church
All it is.
preaches. Yep.
For sure. Oh, and it's definitely linked to organized religion. Yeah. And I think, and I hope, I should say that, I'm going to go with hope, that can take less of a driving force and we can put humanity ahead of it. And folks would argue, well, that's what that is. Well, is it though? And I'm going to kind of circle back to what Dave said, and how scrolling through this and scrolling through that and the whole voting, and a lot of folks are doing this in their own way. Some of them very, very loudly online, others with quiet donations. And I think the only wrong way is nothing or straight up ignoring it. There was a tweet today I saw. It was actually retweeted from Vocabulary, which I love. And I am horrible with names. Okay, so I'm not even going to go there, but I'm going to acknowledge the Twitter handle as Principal EL. I think you may or may not know who this is. Take a look. Anyway, and I even put on my Courage shirt today. All right, because I wanted to share this. When I got the text, "Hey, are you in tonight?" It's going to be heavy, given the light of what's going on. This tweet kind of stuck out, and Principal EL said, "Having the courage to engage in conversations or chats where you may not be an expert or even the main voice is a great step. It may seem small in the multitude of voices and viewpoints, but openly discussing racism and an impact on Black lives is huge," he says to me, but to everybody. And I feel like this is one of those small things that I can do that is pushing me outside. I don't want to say outside my comfort zone because it's something I do feel very passionately about and I try to lend my voice to, but it's not easy, and nor should it be, but it is important.
I hope people can follow. I mean, reaching the problem among many problems, is that we're preaching to the choir here. Like, I mean, I'm sure everyone who's listening is already agrees with us and stuff like that. So it's tough because we're in a bit of an echo chamber. But like, I really wish people understood that when you vote, for example, for pro people of color policies, when you vote pro immigration, when you vote pro education, and you vote for, in particular, to be honest, I'll just say it, for Democrats, abortion goes down, you idiots. Like that is not just being pro-life in a societal sense that you're doing things as part of society that cause abortions to go down, but like it's just, there's a thread, and sticking to this one issue is not going to help people. People need to vote and realize that you can be pro-life, in more than one way. And, yeah. Oh boy. It's been challenging, and it's not going to get easier. And like we said on the podcast this week, we're not always going to have, like Andy just said, we're not going to always have the right words to say. We're not always going to, we're going to say them wrong as well. I have no doubt. And we're thankful that we have friends and comrades and peers that will correct us in the ways that we need to be corrected when we need to be corrected, and do that in a respectful way. I have no doubt that there's tons of people that if we said something wrong or stupid would just go after us, but then I know that we have people like Michael and Sarah Thomas and Adam File that would say, this came out a little bit wrong. Let me tell you my perspective, and let's talk through this a little bit. And that's I think helpful. That'll be what's helpful for most people, especially people that are honestly interested in engaging in this topic and wanting to learn how to approach it with the right sort of ways, but aren't there yet. It's not going to be helpful to just get absolutely crushed by social media and Twitter, and there is, and we've talked about it, and I'll shout it out too, because again, I'm not sure I'm afraid of anything right now, but there is like this. There are these folks out there that are the hyper woke, aggressive people too, and that's not just as toxic, but it's scary, and it makes you want it. I actually told Benjamin Docksetter that I don't want to engage with him because I'm afraid of him. Like, I'm afraid of the way that he converses with me, because we've had conversations before, and I think I'm a pretty good guy on this topic, right? Like, I'd like to think so anyways. And so I'm hopeful that when the conversation can remain civil on both sides, that we're all learning from each other and getting better together. And I think that's probably the best. Amanda Fox is really weighing in on the chat, and that's nice of her, but trying and engaging is definitely the key. Love the courage of this discussion. Thank you. And I'll tell you, these are good people here in this chat, and we all want to be better. And it's scary times and it's tough times, but the conversations have to be, and even if they're scary and tough, I guess. I mean, they've been scary and tough for people of color for a long time. So,
amen.
I feel mildly selfish bringing this up, because this better together. I'm discovering how, and again, there is a bit of the toxicity on social media, but I'm looking at my own friends, lifelong friends, family members, not there, not getting it, not open to listening or trying. And you said better together. I feel like this is driving some people apart. And granted, it's driving people apart and I say this to this group and to those listening who are, you said, in that sounding room, who were probably pretty like-minded, feel like we're on the right side of things here. How can you not see that? How can I phrase this in 18 different ways to try to make the connection, and it just doesn't happen? And we see this happening too. And granted, it's with a certain, how do I say this tactfully? There's a certain type of folk that tend to then split off, right? And find their own bubbles. But it's bringing a lot of people who weren't together, or who didn't know they were together. And it's casting off what I would say quite a bit of sour negativity or sour silence. And I don't know, what does the group think about the divisions that kind of may have come from long-standing connections?
I definitely see that. I mean, probably much more on Facebook than on Twitter. On Twitter, I feel like there's way more of this feeling than on Facebook. But it's been really nice, yeah, on that one hand, seeing the people who are supporting the posts. And you do notice some very audible silence from, and not just on a single post, because people can't see every post, but it's disconcerting when there are people notably not liking your posts who have always liked them before.
Absolutely. I had this conversation today with my sister-in-law. I said, like, I have been posting about, different books that we as teachers and media specialists can have in our libraries, and different books that we as teachers need to be reading. I've been posting about how we can be an ally and an advocate, and I have been posting about different ways that you can donate money to help rebuild the north side of Minneapolis and all sorts of other different things. And it's been nearly crickets, except for the people that I would expect to would hit like for that. And then this morning I posted about how it was National Donut Day and my kids were eating donuts, and suddenly everyone is liking and commenting, and it's my family, it's my friends, it's my leaders in my school. And it's just, I don't know, it's so upsetting to me.
It is so. I purposefully didn't post about Donut Day, even though I noshed on some very choice donuts this morning. But I purposely didn't, almost as a test for exactly what you were saying. Like, I don't want to add something off topic right now. And granted, I posted, my kids' end of the school year parade, and that was wonderful too. So in a way, that sort of was the same thing. But you're right. There is some disengagement, some lack of connection or choice and interaction. And it worries me, but then of course I think more on it, and I'd say, sorry if I'm kind of grabbing the reins on this conversation, but and then of course my brain goes but within all of this, I start to think about, is this a relationship that I need in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And it pains me, because what I thought I knew of this person is, in the span of a week and a half, is kind of really revealing true colors. And I don't know if that partially is on me. All I know is, as an educator, a very large part of my job is to reflect on what I do and how I do it. And that kind of comes into my personal life too. What I do and how I do it speaks volumes about me as a person, and I take that very seriously. And I'm reflecting a whole lot more in my personal life, on my privilege, on what I can do to be better for my community, everyone in my community, but mostly our POC, our people of color, who have been systematically disadvantaged for centuries. And I never feel like I can do enough. I never feel like I have the words. but I see folks who could have the words who stay silent, and that really irks me. And so, I don't know. It's been very interesting. Mike, you kind of kicked off our chat before all of this with the exhaustion. And I think we've nailed it a little earlier too, where, yeah, we're all exhausted, but like you said, imagine those folks who this has been their life. This has been their parents' life. This has been their grandparents, great grandparents. This is it. And we're like, yeah, it's been 10 days.
And maybe as easy or as concerning as it is for some of the people that I'm not seeing speak out, that I'd like to see do something, like Audrey has mentioned, our schools making statements. I would venture most of the schools in the United States have not.
Our superintendent sent something out today.
Did he? Or did she?
Yes, she did.
Thank you for correcting me on that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sexist comment right there.
She did.
But maybe a lot of the people who are not liking it are not where we are yet too. Like they want to be, but maybe they're where I was, like a month ago.
Well, and keep this in mind too, so that you don't take it personally. But this happened to me. So not long after you guys had Mayor on the podcast, many episodes ago, I started following her, and she tweeted something, and I liked it. And her tweet had a bad word in it. I don't even remember which one it was, but I liked it. And I had
a lot like that.
Yeah, I don't remember which word it was. It wasn't even that bad. And I actually had an administrator in our district call me on the carpet for that and say, said, I noticed that you liked this tweet, and this is not like you, and it's against, our district and all this. So I had to unlike the tweet. So don't.
It's just a like. It wasn't even like a retweet where you were putting it out with your.
Correct. Just a like. And my Twitter account is my own. In no place do I say I'm part of a district, or I don't even say I'm an educator in mine. It's my own, but I got called on the carpet. And so don't take it personally that people aren't liking it, because maybe they are afraid of what backlash might come to them in their district, especially if they're educators.
Yeah, I was actually having that conversation with Glen today. I in my years of being an educator and now as a coach, I've noticed that the higher you move up in education, the more stifled your voice becomes, because you have to be so darn diplomatic. You're not allowed to say what you actually feel about these tough topics. And, we received an email today from our superintendent, not at all supporting our families or our employees of color, but warning us about what we post on social media. And it was really disheartening. I mean, I understand that we have a teacher just north of us who's now being investigated for her terrible comments, but even those comments weren't called out as being racist. They were just comments that caused some trouble, and so it's so frustrating to me that we're being warned about what we post on social media versus taking time to support our employees and our families who need our support right now.
Did you get asked, or I wonder if anyone was ever asked, why did you like that? Why did you retweet that? Why was that so important to you to get out there? And I feel like that would have been a really smart place to start. And let's work together then on that, rather than nope, done. I don't know.
I think this is a good segue for a couple of things. First, I'd like to thank both GoGuardian and Participate for issuing very strong statements. GoGuardian did that today, and Participate did that a couple days ago. And obviously, I work for Participate, so I was involved in I didn't write the statement or anything like that, but I saw it and had a chance to weigh in or whatever prior to its release. And I have to say that one of the things that makes organizations able to speak up is when they work within a set of values that matter, and that care for people. And I think that you can tell the companies and organizations that have values that are people-centered and justice-centered by seeing who speaks up and how they do it. We as a podcast align with people who have values that center, people in them. And I work for a company that, has values that have people at the center of their organization, and not just white people, but all of the people. And in particular, right now, centering people of color and lifting up, their voices. So we're actively at Participate engaged in trying to identify partners in our communities that we can elevate and bring up front a little bit more to share some of the work that they're doing. And I mean, a lot of the communities that we deal with are people-centered themselves, and actively doing work to help people in a number of different ways. So, I guess if I took away some hope, I think that we can end this little bit on, even though I was the one who said it was a terrible week, I think that I do see a reason to be optimistic about where we go from here. And it's not always going to be easy. I'm really interested. There was I just passed kind of my way before this started. Ta-Nehisi Coates said something today, which I've been kind of waiting, for a bigger kind of statement from him. I don't know where it is. I'm gonna have to go looking for it, but and it's centered around optimism too. And he's definitely a guy who's not always or very rarely optimistic. So I'd be interested in what he's saying. I do want to draw people's attention, or at least talk a little bit about what I guess I wrote. I try to avoid saying we because I wrote this, but I did kind of share it with everybody before I published it a little bit, and but I do think that beyond like spelling mistakes and grammar and some slight sentence structure nuance and slight different word choices, I feel like we're all generally behind this, and if you weren't, feel free to come after me later, but or maybe yesterday. But I wrote this statement. It's definitely what's been on my mind and what I've been trying to think and say about this. But it does have some action items related to what the podcast is actually going to do. And I did want to highlight those because I think that's where it's important I think it's important for us to say it out loud, what people are going to do. I've disliked statements that have said, we support people of color. And I'm like, great, how? I mean, tell me what you're actually going to do. Tell me what's changing, because I'd like to think you've always supported people of color, to be friggin' honest. So like, what are you doing that's different? Because that's what actually matters. You can tell me all day that you support people of color. I support people of color, and frankly, everyone should. But, in light of what's going on, you need to tell us what's happening that's going to be different. And so I thought that was an important part of this statement, was not only do we condemn what's been going on, but here's how we're going to respond. And so, highlighting the idea that we're going to put a lot more effort into having people of color and diverse voices on the podcast as guests. For example, that's something we can commit to. Committing to donating small amounts of our ad revenue. To be honest, and Glen said this to me privately the other day, and I don't mind saying it out loud. We got approached to have a sponsorship, and we declined the conversation. We for multiple reasons, we don't need your money, and we didn't really want your money. And it wasn't, in hindsight, especially right now, it didn't feel like a good values fit. And that's important to me now as well. And it should have been more important before, but I feel like we've aligned with people who had strong values. But this one didn't seem like a good fit. And so, we didn't engage in the opportunity, but we want to donate some funds of our revenue because we're not traveling a lot. Again, the next conference we go to isn't until the fall. And so we have time, to make up, if all of our sponsors went away, we'd figure it out. We'll figure out what to do. But we want people to see that we're making this action, taking an action. And maybe that's supporting a charity or an organization that supports content creators of color, something that aligns with us being a podcast or something like that. So, but we did make some small donations yesterday in the name of the podcast to a couple different groups and causes related to what's going on right now. And this was this other one. It means continuing to not be afraid to ask hard questions and demand real answers for those questions. This was actually a statement that we also released as a tweet a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And we're doubling down on that, especially me personally. Like, this is more of a personal thing. I can't speak for you guys, and I can't speak for Glen, and I don't want to be perfectly honest. I don't think that's fair. But I am not afraid to ask questions that are important, and not afraid that you're going to squirm in your seat a little bit. And if that means, that we get to your book at the end, then that means we get to your book at the end. We like your book. You wouldn't be on the damn podcast if we didn't think your book was probably great, and your work and whatever it is else that you're doing. But if you're calling yourself a leader in education, you need to have answers, or at least thoughts. I don't need you to have all the answers. I need you to have thoughts. Please be thinking about this stuff. I personally, Mike Washburn, need to see minds at work for you to have my continued respect. I need to know that you care about this and that you've been thinking through this, right? And that's what's important about that to me. And then continuing to dig deep into important topics. I think we've always done this well. I think we've always, like I said, we talked about school funding. And we've always talked about stuff that, like, I was actually asked on an interview that's not out yet about why we talk about stuff we talk about on the podcast. And I'm like, well, because everyone should be. Like, it's what everyone should be talking about. I can't compensate for the fact that other podcasts and education companies and groups and people are chicken shit. Like, that's not my job, frankly. We talk about them because they're important. Anyways. We'll link the statement in the chat, and Michael Bonner's episode is here as well. We hope you share it. We hope you listen to it. Just like every other episode we've ever released, we hope you take we hope that you take something from it and that it improves what you're doing. I don't know if anyone has thoughts on any of these or any of these points, but I've talked long enough, and go ahead.
Good work.
Thank you for placing morals over money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Appreciate you putting Breonna Taylor on there too. She's that happened right down the road from where I live, about an hour and a half down the road, and it's really hitting our state hard. So I got my Kentucky shirt on today in support of Breonna Taylor's family.
Yay. And the many other names.
Yes.
Yeah,
There are hundreds.
so many.
Thousands.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate you also sharing different places where people can donate money to help support. I think that those people who are nervous about sharing their opinion online or with other people or whatever it might be, this is still one way that they can make a difference. They can still, put their money where their mouth might be, and they can help support this, even if they, because of whatever their position might be at their jobs or whatever it is, can't say something online. This is where they can make a difference. And so I appreciate you posting those different resources.
Yeah, those links came from the Blackout Tuesday page, which both Participate recognized, and in multiple ways. We canceled our streams that we normally do on Tuesday as well, and we also canceled all of the tweets. I want to thank Dave for being cognizant of that and canceling all of the scheduled tweets from the OnEducation feed. He did that without me even having to suggest anything. He just, did it, which is what I appreciate about you, Dave. And I canceled. I actually, and this is I was so busy canceling everything else that I actually forgot to cancel my own tweet. So it came out at like 10:01, and I was like, crap, and I deleted it. But it was so funny that I was really appreciative of how supportive. I told Steve Isaacs that I didn't think we should stream, and he was on board with that. And Brad Schreffler, who streams also on the Participate channel on Tuesdays, and his is only once a week. Like, he's not streaming twice a day; he's once a week, and he agreed to he decided to stop his as well. So we all took a pause, and I thought that was important. Yeah.
I just want to share something. My sister-in-law, I shared this with you guys online, but she had imparted some wisdom upon me this week about holding space for people who are racist. And she, let's see if I can pull up her text to me. Well, she said something similar to, I'm not holding space for people who are racist or xenophobic or homophobic. I don't have capacity to hold space for those people. I am pushing my capacity to people who are affected by what has happened in our state and in our nation, and I am using my capacity to support those who are standing up for our friends of color, our families of color, our employees of color. And I was very thankful for her to say that to me, because here I was like putting all my energy in a fight with somebody, and she was just like, you just need to back off, and you just don't hold space with her. You save your capacity for making a difference. And I just thought that was super wise, and wanted to share with anybody else who's out there fighting a fight right now that, people are hard-headed, and we just need to forget them, and we need to put our energy towards something that we can change.
Well said.
Yep.
And I think that with that same point, we can't not acknowledge when people are spewing the wrong thing. Like, completely agree with that. Like, we need to address specifically And then when you see it just turning into that battlefront, hope that someone else helps pick that up, because it's just going one-on-one. I know I had a message with someone this morning, and I had a colleague step in and say, "Hey, Dave, that's nothing's going to happen there." And I was like, but somebody else will see it. And a couple hours later, somebody replies to one of the tweets and goes, "Aren't you going to reply to it?" or something like that. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what just needed to be there. Just to see that it's more than just two people clashing that are just going to clash but that there is something that isn't clicking on either side. And I'm not always going to be the right one. I truly think I was in this case, but
You were.
Thank you. When that happens, we do have to acknowledge it. And I had another person who I've gotten to work closely with, Michael Walker, send me a message saying, there's the difference between call out culture and call in culture. And to be honest, never read any of the stuff that he shared. So it was amazing for me to see that so I could read it, because I'm a person that I will call you out publicly or I will call you out privately. And to me, those are both call outs. So to be able to see additional background on that was valuable. But, there are plenty of times when it still needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, I appreciate all of you. You're great. So smart and thoughtful and caring, and I know that we have a lot of work to do, and I think the podcast is important and meaningful and doing good work, and we wouldn't be doing any of that without you folks and Glen and Kelly and Claudio, who are also part of the team and our great sponsors who again made statements and are working with values that we appreciate. And I think that all comes together in really important ways to do really meaningful work that not just that doesn't just help people with education, core education stuff that improves how they work in their classroom, but it also improves how they interact with people in society and each other and their families and their peers and everyone else around them. I think that this is a good place to end. I don't have much more to say. I don't know what's going on this week. Does anyone have anything they want to share? Who's on summer holidays? Melissa, are you on summer holidays?
Oh, God, I've been on summer holidays.
The damn room is on summer holidays. Screw you guys.
Well, I mean, I'm a 4-year employee, so I don't really get summer holidays. But
yeah, when are you done? What day are you on?
57 days.
57 days to go.
July 31st.
That's still a long time.
Let's actually congratulate Diana for joining I2E as well. I2E is a wicked company.
Yeah,
and
I'm excited.
Yeah. So joining, it was so funny that the day that you posted that picture of you with the I2E jacket, I had a meeting with them like literally the day before, with Dave and what's Dave's wife's? Is it Dave, the husband and wife that run it? I can't remember.
Oh yeah. I don't know their names. Yep.
Yeah, and then Becky. So I had a meeting with them just the other day. I was like, yeah, I know these people.
So my Minecraft training is through that organization.
I'm so excited for you.
I'm scared. I'm terrible at gaming anything.
If you not a plug, but definitely a plug. This week coming up, actually, and I'm excited about this. I'm doing pretty big amounts of training with Fair Chance Learning from Canada. That's free. If you go through my tweets somewhere, I'll retweet it so it comes up top or something. But you can sign up and you could join my my Minecraft PD if you wanted to, Diana, and that'd be fun.
I might. I saw that.
That's going to be a lot of work if I wasn't tired enough, folks.
Team no chill.
No end. All right, everybody. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to Amanda and Mark and and Dan and everyone else who commented and weighed in. Thanks to everyone who listens after we actually get a decent amount of downloads on whatever nonsense we're talking about during this weird hour that we do, unedited and with nothing else on it. We just literally throw it on the feed and it's downloaded, which is crazy, but thank you. We'll see you again next week, 8:00 on Fridays, for Chat on Education Live. Thanks everyone, and thank you, Andy, Diana, Melissa, Audrey, Dave.
Night.
Thanks everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Take care of yourselves.
Have a great weekend.
See you.